on 88.7 KWDM The Point for another rendition of Before the Buzzer. We're back for another Monday morning show. Johnny Reynolds is not with us today, but I'm Ian Nelson alongside my co-host today, Cole Sunderman. It's going to be a great one. We're getting into the nit and gritty of March. The madness is heating up. It's the 9th. So a bunch of Champ Weeks. We are into Champ Week. Some finals have been concluded, and we know some teams are dancing. Confirmed they locked up their spot. We'll get into all that and much more. But some of the big news, we like to stay in Iowa to begin with, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The big news coming out of the MVC, the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. Arch Madness lived up to its name. It truly was maddening what happened. We'll take you to the Drake Bulldogs. They pick up a huge upset in their second game, going up against the number 1 seed, the Belmont Bears, who this was their first game of Arch Madness, looking to get a big win to potentially lock up their spot. And Drake came in there and said, not so fast, and beat them 100-79. The Bruins' shaky defense finally got exposed, which we had been commenting all year, and Drake found their spot. They kept shooting the ball, and Quinn was a key component in that game. The Bulldogs moved on and eventually lost to UIC in the semifinal.
Yeah, and just we've been talking about it for basically since the start of the semester when we started the show back up, and it was just this entire conference is just so streaky. You know, we talked about it with you and I, how they went on a big losing streak, and then they went on a big winning streak. So in this tournament, it's just all about who can get hot, and being the number 1 seed for Belmont, like they looked like they were the number 1. They looked like they were pretty far and away the best team in this conference. But then Drake just got him on a good day where they were really hitting just everything, and they were able to pull it off, which is just the great thing about March. You can really feel it now, and then you and I, they're a little less surprising. You know, everyone kind of saw them as a team that maybe could make a run, but you don't expect it. But in March, you just have to know to expect the unexpected at this point. And you know, if this Arch Madness tournament is going to be a sign of things to come in March Madness, then I will be very happy about that.
Yes, I will also. As I mentioned, Drake went on to play UIC, who they had split in the regular season, and UIC just went out hot. In Washington Jr. kept shooting the lights out, scoring 23 points as UIC went on to win 72-51, ending Drake's Arch Madness run and their year, which was an up and down year. They finished 14-20, 6-14 in conference play. A big fall off from last year's historic year, but first year with Coach Hendo and a whole new team. Only 2 returning players, only one of which played heavy minutes this year. So it was a good end to the year, very strong, surprising a lot of people, especially the 21-point win, scoring 100 on a team that a lot of people expected to be dancing in March Madness. So a great year for them. But the other team in Iowa in the MVC, the UNI Panthers, a streaky team. They were struggling going into Arch Madness, picking up a bunch of losses. And then out of nowhere, the Panthers move on to March Madness. They are dancing. They had the same path as Drake did. They had to play in the opening round. They had to play the second round. They had to play the semifinal. And they played the final against UIC. And they thumped them. They won that game handily. It got a little nitty near the halfway point of that game, but it went to halftime 48-41. But in that second half, outscoring the Panthers by 8, winning 84-69. Trey Campbell, we've been calling his name all year, waiting for him to break out. He's a UNI native, grew up in Cedar Falls, and finally had himself a ball game. And the Panthers move on to the big dance.
Yeah, and especially this UNI run is really a testament to how this team has been playing all year. They've ended this part of the season on a 5-game win streak, and it just shows how they can really get hot. And they are not a team that you want to face in March Madness at all. They're probably going to be a 13-ish seed, and you usually see about maybe one of those 13 seeds beating the 4 in that first round. And if I were the 4 seed facing off against UNI, I would be very concerned because this UNI team really has the pieces to make some sort of Cinderella run.
Yeah, I mentioned it in their intro. They're a streaky team, and they streaked at the exact right time. They got a couple of big wins and then just really won the remainder of that Arch Madness handedly. And I agree with you a lot, Cole. I do not want to face this team if I'm one of the higher seeds because we've seen what they can do. This is UNI's first entrance into March Madness since 2016 with a lot of Iowa fans. If you remember that was the Jesperson half-court heave during the first round against Texas that moved them on to the second round. UNI will wait on Selection Sunday, this coming Sunday, to find their placement and who their first-round matchup is. Now, the next two teams, Iowa and Iowa State, they will start their conference tournaments this week. We'll start with Iowa. We mentioned earlier, a couple weeks ago, coming off the Wisconsin loss at Wisconsin, they needed to finish out the 4 games, either in neutral, go 2-2, or go 3-1. And it looked like they could do that, picking up a huge win against Ohio State, then going the remainder of the year, they needed to pick up at least 1 or 2 more wins. They couldn't do that, losing closely to a very struggling Penn State team, losing very closely to a Michigan team at home, which could have gone their way if just things would have fallen. And then they played Nebraska at Nebraska on Sunday, and it was close. It went into overtime. And then in overtime, it was Hoiberg and crew handling business. Nebraska wins 84-75. The Hawkeyes fall 1-3 on the remainder 4 games, and it just does not look good for the Hawkeyes, especially going into that Big Ten tournament where every win mattered to get a good spot. Now they're going to have to streak in that Big Ten. There's no chance they miss out on the big dance. That is a for sure thing. They've definitely locked up their spot because they are a very strong team, 20-11, 10-10 on conference. But you're not looking good in that Big Ten conference tournament, and now you're going to have to fight for a decent seed that isn't anything higher than a 10 seed.
Yeah, and in this Big Ten tournament, they are fortunate. They have the single bye now, which you really don't want. They'll be playing on Wednesday at 11 a.m., 30 minutes before the Iowa State men play. And then they'll be playing the winner of Maryland-Oregon, and then if they move on, they'll play Ohio State. So those are 2 very winnable games. But then if you win that game, you'll have to face off against Michigan, and you just don't expect to beat this Michigan team. They're so good. But I was watching the Iowa-Nebraska game with some Iowa fans, and they were very unhappy. Obviously, you lose to Nebraska. It's one of your most bitter rivals. It doesn't feel good, but at the same time, it really isn't the worst thing for Iowa because they have a chance to get off of that 8-9 game. You wanted to get to that 7 seed instead of that 10 seed, but being a 10 seed really isn't the worst thing in the world. But it still does seem like they'll be stuck in the 8-9 game, but being a 10 seed wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they do get stuck in that position.
So Iowa will play Wednesday, March 11th. They'll play the winner of Oregon-Maryland, which will play tomorrow. The Iowa State Cyclones were at home against Arizona State, and they won that game handily in the final half. It was a huge showout, especially from those seniors. Joshua Jefferson and Taman Lipsey had themselves a night, as well as Milan Momcilovic, who is a junior. So a bunch of good play. The Cyclones are the fifth seed in the Big 12 tournament. They will play the the winner of Baylor and Arizona State. So you could see a rematch from Arizona State and Baylor. Anything just to discuss quickly on the Iowa State matter?
Well, I think that this just having just a very handling win, very controlling win. They were able to really dominate this game after they really didn't play very well in the last 3-ish minutes of the first half. But other than that, they played a very complete game, and they were able to go on that 24-0 run. And when you go on a 24-0 run, that just shows that the team is clicking, and that's really what this team needed, because they really did feel like they were starting to get a little bogged down, a little stagnant at points, and then it sets up a not horrible path for them to make a little bit of a run here and try to push their way up into the 2-seed conversation, because it does feel like it's kind of between them and Illinois for that last 2-seed. And then if you can just handle your business in that first game and then knock off Texas Tech and show that game was a fluke in Hilton a couple weeks ago, then you put yourself in a great spot, and then you're able to, have a great position going into March.
So like I said, Iowa State will play Wednesday against the winner of Baylor and Arizona State. We are now out of time, but something we will continue to do is look at the automatic qualifiers and the conference championship. Queens wins their conference. High Point also wins their conference. Long Island University wins their conference. Well, they didn't win their conference. I don't know if they won their conference or not, but they made it into the final, and because the Marymount, who they were matched up against in the final, was not eligible, they win. They take the automatic qualifier for their conference. UNI wins their conference. North Dakota State wins their conference, and Tennessee State wins their conference. 2 other conference championships to look out for: Troy and Georgia Southern for the Sun Belt, and Furman and East Tennessee State for SoCon Championship. Those are all tonight, 6 o'clock starting time for both of those. A couple semifinal games we're looking around for today. But that is all the time we have left for Before the Buzzer. A quick show without Johnny, and we got to get prepared, because stay tuned. We will switch the stream if you are watching on YouTube, but stay tuned if you're listening on the radio, because in just under 13 minutes, we welcome Wheatest and their lead singer. It's going to be a great show, but thank you all for tuning in to Before the Buzzer. I'm Ian Nelson alongside Cole Sunderman. Have a great rest of your Monday, and keep rocking with us on 88.7 KWDM The Point.
When it comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped.